What's up, guys? This is Marseille, aka the Property Pastor, coming at you with another great video. Today we're going to be talking about the cash flow quadrant. The cash flow quadrant, and this is one of my favorite subjects to talk about. This is a quadrant that was developed by the great Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad Poor Dad fame. And if you've never read the cash flow quadrant, I would highly encourage you to read it. First of all, if you never read Rich Dad Poor Dad, you want to start there. But cash flow quadrant is what I consider like a step ahead or a step above Rich Dad Poor Dad. And what it really does is it digs into 4 different types of ways to produce income. So before we dig into it, I want to encourage you guys to make sure that you like this video, make sure you share it to somebody, make sure that you subscribe to our channel, because we are dropping brand new content every single week to help you in your journey. So whether you are a real estate investor, whether you're trying to achieve financial independence or financial freedom, we're dropping content to help you. So today we're not going to really be digging too deep into real estate in particular. We're going to be dealing with wealth generation. And I think that real estate is a phenomenal wealth building tool, but it is just that, it is a tool. So again, make sure you like and subscribe, but we're going to go ahead and dig into this stuff, to this content. It's a great content for you, and hopefully it's eye-opening to you if you've never heard it before. So we're going to actually pull up a graphic here, and if you look at the graphic, you're going to see 4 squares basically, or 4 quadrants. And these quadrants talk about the 4 ways to produce income. And what you'll notice is that each of the quadrants is labeled with a letter. You got an E quadrant, an S quadrant, a B quadrant, and an I quadrant. Now, if you're working a day-to-day job, right, you're a W-2 wage earner, right? You go to work for someone else, you punch a clock, right? Whatever that looks like, you get a paycheck every single week. You fall in the category of what we call an employee. That is a person who has a job. And the way that you produce income on that job is that you trade skills and time for dollars, right? So essentially what you're doing there is you are investing your time, right? From 9 to 5, 8 to 4, 7 to 3, or 7 to 7, whatever your hours look like, you are essentially trading time. And this quadrant is where most of the people find themselves. That's 95% of the population, maybe even upwards of 99, but 95% of the population falls in the E quadrant. I myself, I fall under this quadrant, even though I also have investments and earn money in the other quadrants. Primarily, I trade time for dollars, right? And it's one of the things that I'm working towards financial independence, so that my income doesn't come from my W-2 job. So basically, if you are an employee, right, you trade your time. It is 1 for 1. So every hour that you invest, or every hour you give, you then in turn receive a paycheck for it, right? So that's the E quadrant, and that's where most people find themselves. And typically the American dream, is that we can go and find a job, find a good paying job, be able to go out to eat, go to Applebee's, Outback, whatever, right? Be able to afford those things, be able to take a vacation, every year or whatever that looks like. And we retire, right? And most people retire between 65 and 70, and they live off of their pension, their 401k, their Social Security. Now, the problem with this is that we're waiting towards the end of our lives to actually enjoy the things that we want to do. Now, my job gives me a certain number of vacation weeks every year, which is fine and good. But when you really distill it all down, you boil it all down to its simplest forms, you're trading most of your time. So most of your time is spent going to work for most of us. So most of us spend most of our time going to work. So we don't have the freedom to do the things that we want to do when we want to do them. So the E quadrant is really an employee-based quadrant. So then we're going to jump our way down. So once we finish with the E quadrant, so we've identified what E is, an employee quadrant. Let's look at self-employed. Now, this is going to be small business owners, primarily folks who own a business, right? It might be, barber, hair salon. Folks they might have a general contractor type of business, home repair, whatever those things might be. Basically it's a person that started their own business, and they are what we consider self-employed. Now, on the surface, this sounds like a fantastic place to be, right? Because you're like, I don't have to report to a boss anymore. I am my own boss. And really what happens in this quadrant is the person doesn't necessarily own a business. They just own a job. Now, that you might be upset when you hear that, right? But the reality of it is, ask yourself, if I stop working, right, on my self-employed business, if I stop working, do I still get paid? right? So if you are a sole proprietor, you're the only person in that particular business, and you don't produce anything, right? You don't do hair that day. You don't go and do mobile detailing that day. You don't cook that day, right? Does your business make any money? So if you have to be physically present in order for the business to operate and generate funds, you don't really own a business. You just own a job. So you basically have the right to tell yourself whether or not I'm going to show up for work today. But the problem there is if you don't show up for work that day, right, you don't get paid. So you're still investing time for dollars. So it's a one for one, right? There's no leverage taking place there, right? So that's you have more control as a self-employed business owner, but you don't own your time. You still have to give time in order to generate money. And a phenomenal book that I would highly recommend you read about being self-employed is called The E-Myth. It's called The E-Myth. It's by a guy named Michael Gerber, and it just really digs into the difference between owning a business and owning a job, building systems into it, so that you can start to step away, right? Empower others to work for you and leverage your skill set, leverage your resources so that business operates when you are not around, right? So this is a tricky quadrant to be in, because on the surface we can trick ourselves and think we're doing really well with it, but then when you actually step away for a little while, either you get sick, you want to take some time off, you notice that you're not generating funds. So really the freedom that you have from being self-employed is whether or not you want to trade your time for money, right? But if you choose not to, you don't continue to gain money. So you see a big difference there between self-employed and employee, right? If an employee stops showing up from work, they're not going to have a job. If a self-employed person stops showing up for work, they'll still have a business, right, for as long as they can pay their bills, but they will not generate any money. So now we're going to jump over to the right-hand side. And that's really where I want to focus today, which is the primary two areas that you actually want to be. So the top right-hand corner talks about being a business owner, right? So as a business owner, you own a system that generates funds for you when you are not there. And that's the beauty of a business, right? Sometimes some folks talk about having a franchise, right? If you own a car wash, you own a laundromat, you got a few employees. Those employees come and they work. They're employees of you, but that system is still generating income while you are not there. So you really want to function in the business quadrant, right? So me as a real estate investor, one of the things I really had to challenge myself with was, am I going to just own a job, be the handyman, be the property manager, be the person going to showing the properties, or was I going to employ or leverage through other folks like a property manager, through a handyman, through general contractors, right? So that I could step away and my business continue to earn and generate income. One of the things I love is when I go to my mailbox at the first part of the month, I pick up checks because I call that mailbox money. That is passive income. Passive income is the kind of money that you want, not necessarily earned income. What passive income does is when you are putting your money to work. Right. So a lot of us, we're not necessarily putting our money to work. We're consuming, we're going out and buying things. When we get a paycheck from our W-2 job, we go and we take those funds and we go buy shoes. We go in and buy a trip. We go and buy a brand new car, buy new clothes, all these kind of things that they don't in turn go to work for us. But being a business owner is a person who owns a system, right? So if you find yourself down in the self-employed column, I want to challenge you to build systems so that you can step away, right, and do the things you want to do, and your system is now making money for you. That is a huge, huge difference, right? So you don't want to be an employee. You don't want to necessarily just be self-employed. You want to be a business owner, right? You want to be a business owner so that business can earn money for you while you are not present. And then the last area, and so just to highlight, one thing I want to make sure we cover, the business owner is utilizing systems and they're utilizing people, right? And they are generating income for them. So when you're going to do that, that's important to have training materials. That's important to have automation built in, checks and balances, all those kind of things, so that when you step away, right, people don't start stealing your money. People don't start slacking off. You've got to have systems and check and balances as a business owner. The last area of the quadrant is being an investor. So what an investor does is they own investments. So what they do is they take their money and that money goes out to work and produces more money for them. So that could be in the stock market, mutual funds. If you've taken your money, right, if you just take your money and you park it in your bank account, and that bank account is probably making, a quarter of a percent. Well, the cost of inflation right now, the basic cost, standard cost of living is about 3%. So if you're only making 0.25%, you're losing money by keeping it in the bank. So you've got to put your money into something that will outpace and outperform the standard of living. Otherwise, it's going backwards, right? So that's why it's important that you either invest into mutual funds and things like that are gaining you 8 and 10%, 6 to 10% basically on typically a typical return. That's going to outpace inflation. So that's going to actually be working for you. So what an investor is doing is they are taking their money and they are putting it somewhere that it can go and work for them. A wise man told me once, he said, every dollar you have should be an employee. And that employee, right, is you look at it as an employee that goes and works for you. And as it does that, right, it's generating wealth. And then compound interest allows that money to earn money. And then the earnings from that money goes and earns more money. And as time goes, you can do some amazing things with compound interest, right? So, but what an investor is doing is they are taking their money and they are employing it or putting it to work. So if you notice, one thing about these quadrants is that up front in the employee quadrant, it's 1 for 1. Right. If I invest an hour and I get paid for an hour. Right. But with you as an investor, right, there is something amazing called leverage. And I love leverage because what leverage does, it allows me to take a percentage. And this is exactly why I am a real estate investor, because I can take a percentage of a total purchase price, but I get the benefit of the total price that I paid. And let me break that down for you. So let's say, for example, I am buying a $100,000 house. And I go and I invest, $20,000. I try not to invest 20% down on my investments, but let's say just to make the math easy, I have to put 20% down. So the house is worth $100,000. So I put down 20,000, right? But the house is worth 100,000. So what happens is the rent on that particular asset, I'm not just getting rent based on my 20,000, right? A $20,000 house wouldn't do much for me, but I am collecting rent based on a $100,000 house. So that $100,000 is now earning money, but I've not put in 100,000. I've only put in 20,000. So my 20,000 investment, right, is now leveraged up to a $100,000 investment. And that is the beauty of real estate, right? You can't necessarily do that in stocks. You can't do that in bonds, municipal bonds and things like that. But real estate does allow you to leverage. So when you are an investor, you are not going in and putting in time, right? So for me, my tenants, they're paying down my mortgages for me, right? My tenants are paying rents and all those kind of things. And I am taking the benefit of it. I didn't do anything. I didn't go to the house and cook. I didn't go to the house and we keep things clean, right? We didn't take care of the place, but I didn't have to go in and do anything. I didn't have to be there around the clock for them. I provided something that is now an asset, and the asset is giving me a return on my investment, right? So the quadrants that we really want to spend our time in are in the business owner quadrants and in the investor quadrants, right? So you don't want to sit there and consume all of your money. If you consume all your money, you're not putting it to work. You're allowing it to just dwindle away. But if you can take a percentage, a lot of folks, if you read The Richest Man in Babylon, if you read some of the different wealth building, if you go through Dave Ramsey's materials, he tells you to always pay yourself first, invest at least 10% of your income. And the thing is, you got to live below your means. So one thing that happens a lot of times is that we go and, depending on how much we make, we just spend more money. Right. So I would encourage you, if you can get to the place where you're living, like a college student, or you're living like you did back when you were broke, just keep living that similar lifestyle, right? I'm not telling you to take a vow of poverty, but live a conservative lifestyle and ask yourself, do I really need another pair of shoes? Ladies, do you really need another purse? Do you really need another trip? Do you really need to get a new car, right? It's fantastic to have that car paid for, but take your money, right? Invest it into a business, take your money and invest it into another investment, right? That can in turn make you money. It can go to work for you. So as you look at the cash flow quadrant, right, you don't want to be in the E and S sides. You want to be in the B and the I sides. And trust me, that is going to make a world of difference. The worst thing you want to do in my mind is work your whole life, right, and retire at 65 and 70 and then pass away a year or two later. I've actually seen that. I've seen where people have worked, up until they're 65, 67. Actually, somebody last year that I knew, they worked until they were 67 years old. And within 6 months of retiring, they passed away. right? And it just blew my mind. It was like, wow, I don't want to wait until my latter years to enjoy my life. So you can't do that unless you own businesses, unless you have investments that are earning you a lot more money than it is in a savings account, than it is through just through leveraging your time. So that's the quadrant for you guys. I hope that you got something from it. I hope you're looking towards now, how do I own business? How do I become an investor? If you got questions for me, make sure you drop them in the comment section. I'm here to answer those questions for you, here to help you along your journey. I'm wishing you guys nothing but the absolute best. And, if you got questions, like I said, again, make sure you drop them in the comment section. That's what we got for you guys today with our video. I thank you so much for tuning in. I love you guys so very much, and I'm praying for your success, praying you chase your goals with relentless passion, and that you don't allow anything to stop you. So love you guys. Can't wait to see you again in the next video. God bless you. Take care. This has been Marseille, aka the Property Pastor, signing off. God bless.